What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. So, quick little update on the Squier Jazzmaster mod project. It's going to be at least another week until I'm totally done with it. As you can see, I've got it set up, but there's just a couple little setup issues that I kind of need to work out with it. I just wasn't really able to finish it up in time this week to have the whole video done and film everything. So that'll be kind of next week's project, is hopefully get that wrapped up and all that jazz, no pun intended. But I had an idea for a video that I've been wanting to do for a few weeks anyway, so I figured I'd just go ahead and do it this week, and then hopefully next week we'll be wrapped up on the Squier mod project thing. So, jumping into this video, this is a topic I kind of see pop up, and it's really more it's really something more that let's call them intermediate, not intermediate players, but intermediate professionals, right? I went through this phase myself, okay? And the topic is, why don't professional musicians use boutique gear? Now, before you just jump into comments and stuff, I know musicians that do use boutique guitars and boutique pedals and all that kind of stuff, right? But by and large, so we're talking generalizations here, when you look at serious professional musicians, touring guitarists, a lot of them are using real, mainstream kind of stuff. Gibsons, Fenders, Boss pedals, Vox amps, Marshall amps, real easily acquirable stuff. And why is that? Is it because this stuff is really the best? Or whatever. So let's get into it, right? And this can be my thumbnail, because this is a boutique pedal that I have here, and this is just a good old Boss pedal. I don't have two pedals of the same type. This is an overdrive, this is a noise gate, but still, just to make my point, right? So I had this pedal board on my pedal. I had this pedal on my pedal board for a long time. This is a Pedal Monsters Klon clone, and it is a great pedal. It's a Klon clone, is what it is, right? Why am I not still using it? And how come when you look at these professional touring musicians, how come their boards usually look pretty stock? Like anything you could walk into Guitar Center and just buy, Instead of something like this, they might have a JHS Morning Glory, or a Soul Food Overdrive or something, right? Or just an Ibanez Tube Screamer, right? Why? Why is that? Well, the reason why and I found that this kind of applied across the board to professional guitar players as well, kind of made the switch from using super boutique stuff to super readily acquirable stuff, isn't because this stuff isn't good or the other stuff is better, and it's not because I'm endorsed or anything. I'm not, definitely not endorsed by anybody. So why do these musicians use this stuff? And it's because of that sentence I've already said twice, or that phrase I've already said twice, readily available stuff, right? This is a Boss NS2 noise suppressor. And you see how beat up this pedal is, and how this pedal board's been on a dozen different pedal boards I've made. I've had this pedal for 10, 15 years, longer than that. I've had this pedal for 15 years at least. I've had this pedal a long time. And it just works. It does what I want it to do. It's a tank. It just works. And it's not expensive. And if it ever breaks, I don't need another one. And I'm on tour somewhere, if I'm in Kansas City or I'm in Dallas, Texas, or wherever I might be, I can run into a Guitar Center or a local music store and just buy one of these. If I walk into some random mom and pop shop in Phoenix, Arizona, I'm probably going to find an Ibanez Tube Screamer or a Maxon 808 or a Boss SD1 or whatever it is, right? That's the main reason. That's it. Because if you have some really unique pedal or guitar or amp that your rig is dependent on, and then you get into a situation where something's wrong with that piece of equipment, you can't just walk into a music store or a Guitar Center or whatever and find another one. And it's really not any more complicated than that. The other part of it is also the reliability factor. Like I said, I've had this pedal a long time, and I've used it on a bunch of boards, and it's been through, the trenches, and it still works. And I paid $50 for it, right? This pedal was very expensive, and it sounds good, and I never had any issues with it. But I've owned other boutique pedals in the past that I did have issues with. I had a pedal, I'm not going to name the manufacturer, but I had a pedal from a boutique builder that I got and had a problem. I took it out of the box and plugged it up, and I knew something was wrong immediately. So I sent it back to the manufacturer, and they fixed it very quickly. They were very on top of it, and they sent it back to me, and it worked for a few months. And then the same thing started happening. And then I sent it back to them again, and they were relatively quick on it. A little longer than the first time. Didn't respond to some of my emails. Okay. Get it back. It's doing the same thing. A few months later, starts doing the same thing again. And third time around, totally ghosted. Wouldn't respond to my emails. Wouldn't, when I was finally able to get the pedal to them, it took months and months and months to get it back. And it was a delay pedal, I will say that. And I just went to Guitar Center and bought a MXR carbon copy. And just didn't worry about it. And when that pedal, when it took 6 months or something for me to finally bully this this manufacturer, I understand it's one pedal, and they're a manufacturer, and they're a small operation, and they're probably really busy. So I get it, but the whole thing just seemed unnecessary. Why didn't it just work right the first time? I had other pedals from that manufacturer that I didn't have any issues with ever. But I went to Guitar Center, I bought a used MXR carbon copy for like $60, and I had that pedal for 7 or 8 years and never had any problems with it. And when I got that boutique pedal back, eventually, and it was working, I just sold it and made some of my money back and just kept using my MXR carbon copy delay. And so that's, I think, the main factor when it comes to why do high-profile and professional musicians use common gear, is because not only is it common, and you can just find it whenever you want to or need to, the track record with stuff like Boss pedals is just way more proven than with this like hand-wired boutique stuff. It, if you watch pedal videos on YouTube here, you'll hear a lot of stuff about, oh, this is a hand-wired pedal and it's hand-wired and all this stuff. And all the pedals I've really ever had problems with were hand-wired pedals. Contrary to what the court sniffers on the internet will say, circuit board pedals just seem to be more reliable. I don't have any issues with this thing. It's just a circuit board in a metal box, and I've never had any problems with it. And that goes for a lot of other pedals I've owned too. And that's not me digging or anything like that. That's just my experience and the experience of other musicians I know too. It's just a lot of this stuff is way more reliable. It's built to really good tolerances. It's manufactured efficiently and affordably. And yeah, is it cool to have a pedal like this? Yeah, it's real cool, and this pedal sounds real good. Likewise with that other manufacturer, the delay pedal I had, right? The pedal, when it worked, it sounded great, but it wasn't worth the hassle of it. And being a small boutique builder, they didn't have the customer service resources to deal with those issues. They just didn't, right? A pedal like this that you buy through Sweetwater or Guitar Center, or whatever, like they're able to deal with you on the back end a lot more efficiently than the smaller companies are. And that goes for guitars too, right? Why do you see musicians just playing like Fender Strats and Les Pauls and stuff all the time, right? Because these companies are gigantic, one, and if you're on tour and you need another Les Paul or another Strat for some reason, and you just walk into a Guitar Center, guess what you're going to find? On the back end of it, if you do have an issue and you need to be sorted out or returned, and not only do you have your like manufacturer's warranties, like right, not only do Gibson and Fender and Martin or whoever, Ibanez, whoever, not only do they have their own manufacturer's warranties, you're probably going to have your like Sweetwater return policy and warranty, your Guitar Center return policy and warranty, right? So like, this isn't just me being like, don't shop at small shops and small companies. I love small shops. I love supporting mom and pop businesses and smaller builders and stuff like that. But when your entire show depends on reliability and consistency, and you're doing that show numerous times a week, you know, if you're a touring musician and you're playing 5-6 shows a week or something like that, you don't have the luxury of dealing with that, right? Of dealing with not being able to get in touch with the person you need to get in touch with, not having the reliability, not being able to replace said thing if you need to replace it on a whim, right? I've been in those situations before, and it's not great. When you're living out of a hotel room and you have a trailer and a van and you're 1,000 miles away from all the rest of your stuff, and you don't just have a replacement for something and you need to go to a store and get something and you can't. That really makes you start to reevaluate things. And it really makes you start to look at not only the type of gear you're using, but like, is this necessary, right? Like, on my pedal board, I got this big pedal board with all this stuff on it. Do I really need it all, right? And that kind of goes, that's a whole other topic altogether, but it kind of goes hand in hand. And it's also why you just see a lot of guitars nowadays just using like modelers, right? Like if I just have a Quad Cortex or a Head Rush or a Axe Effects, I got this one unit that does everything. I don't have to worry about patch cables dying on me nearly as much. I don't have to worry about an amp dying and numerous pedals dying, right? I've been at gigs before where I had this big pedal board and I plugged in, I was getting nothing, and there's like 10 patch cables in this pedal board and I don't know which one's the bad one, right? That you know, you kind of start panicking when you got to figure this out at a sound check, figure out which one of these patch cables is bad, if that's even what it is, right? So, I think that's why you see a lot of guitar players just using really reliable, road-tested, common gear that they can easily acquire if they need to. There's no big brain conspiracy behind it. There's no, oh, it's because they're getting paid, it's because they're this and this and this, right? A big prime example of this is Slash from Guns N' Roses, right? He has been playing Marshall amps since the beginning of time, right? Since the beginning of Guns N' Roses. And he just recently switched over to a different company, playing Magnatone amps. And why did he do that? People said, oh, because of money. But Slash doesn't need any money. Slash has got plenty of money. The reason he did that is because Marshall can't get him amps. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth, right? When you're flying to Europe or you're flying to Japan or something like that, and you know how much money it costs to ship Marshalls and 412 cabinets to Japan or England or France or somewhere? It costs a ton of money to do that, right? And one of the perks of being such a highly endorsed artist like he is he can call up whoever's endorsing him, at the time Marshall, and he can go, hey, send 3 Marshalls JCM 800 stacks, send my signature Marshall amp stacks, the AFDs, whatever, send 3 of those to Tokyo Dome in Japan. And Marshall would go, we got you. And they send him there, and he flies there, and they're waiting on him when he gets there. And it got to the point where they couldn't do that. And another company said they could. And that's why he switched. Doesn't have anything to do with money. Yes, they are paying him. Of course they're paying him. He's an endorsed artist and he's massive. But it's really more about the reliability and availability. right? There's no point in being endorsed by a company if you can't get the gear that they said they were going to give you. There's no point, right? Like, so I think that will hopefully kind of tidy some things up on that topic. It's really not as complicated or nefarious as a lot of people think it is when it comes to endorsements and stuff like that. Kind of straying away from the original topic a little bit, but I feel like it's relevant because it kind of goes hand in hand. If you're not an endorsed artist and you're just out there by yourself trucking it on the road, you need stuff that's reliable and you need stuff that you can easily get if you need to get it. And while I do love, like I said, I've owned boutique guitars before. I've owned a lot of boutique pedals, and I wasn't comfortable relying on that stuff for my tone, because I knew that if I ever had an issue with it, I would have an issue with it. I wouldn't be able to just replace it that easily, right? So hopefully that clears some things up. If you like guitar content and discussions like this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I post weekly videos about this kind of stuff from the perspective of I'm a professional luthier, guitar tech, semi-professional musician, so I have a lot of experience with this kind of stuff. Like I said, hopefully next week I'll wrap up the Squier mod project. If you haven't seen the first video about that, go check it out. We're doing a bunch of really cool stuff. Well, I've already done it. I just got to finish setting it up now to this Squier Jazzmaster. Total overhaul on it, and when it's done, it's going to be a beast. So I'm looking forward to that video. So hope you guys like it, like the content. Leave me a comment and let me know what your take on this is. Alright, what kind of stuff are you using live? Are you using a bunch of boutique stuff? Have you had issues with it? Is it reliable for you? Are you just sticking with the tried and true? You got your MXR pedals and your Boss pedals, and they've been doing the thing for 10 years and you haven't needed to replace anything. Let me know. And I will see you guys next week.